All right, everybody, welcome to Punch, Kick, Choke, Chat. This is a crazy last episode of 2023, and man, we have a good time for you guys. Looks like everybody on here, by the way, welcome, Pam Swino, Zena Nurse, Dridi Giuliani, Stavros Stavroulius, shoot me now if I pronounced that wrong. Big Al Panacchia is on the call, Ron Waddy, Sensei Ron Waddy, the obstreperous Mario Musso, the lovely and talented Christine Hussey, Ryan Potter, certified badass, Marcus J. Altamar III, who is from Calabria. If you are worried about the folks from Sicily, just remember that in Calabria, they're even more diabolical and meaner than they are in Sicily. However, this particular Calabrese is going to have Italian dinner with me on Saturday, and I'm super looking forward to it. Sensei Sam Miletsky, super fan. And if I'm not mistaken, that is Rochelle the Slip down there in the bottom corner. Welcome, everybody. We are short two hosts at the moment. One will be back soon. One is Sensei Randy Dauphin, Kyoshi Randy Dauphin, and he's having some computer problems. And I'm thinking of doing a GoFundMe for him so he can get a new computer so he doesn't have these problems. And he's not on the call, so I can say that now. And then we are going to be short tonight, my friends. One other host, our super host, Sean Benson, as you may know, makes his living as an actor. And when the screen calls, he has to go. And he's shooting a film right now. And so he's unable to make it. So we're going to do our best to limp along without him. But this is a special episode. We have 3 past guests on this show, and we think it's going to work out well. The chemistry is good. All of us know one another. We have Kyoshi Adette Rice on the call. I'll probably get the titles wrong because I'm just dreadful about those. We have my personal superhero, Conroy Copeland Sensei, on the call. And we have the dirty demon wrist locker, Sensei Scott Taylor, also on the call in my upper right, along with the usual folks. Right now, it's just me and Hanshi Legacy. Unfortunately for you guys at the moment, you get the old guy and Hanshi Legacy. And I'm doing my best, but the age keeps coming, marching on. So what we're going to do tonight is go around the horn, and I was hoping we'd have Sensei Dauphin on first, but since we do not, we're going to jump right in. Hanshi Legacy has a question to kick off this party. And Hanshi, would you please ask your question and let us know who you want to answer first, and we'll go around in whatever order you choose.
My question is really, we don't get to talk about persons that you look for, like higher ranking persons. Like, I know rank is just to keep order, but if you're looking for someone and you're looking for some type of answers, you like to go to the higher ranking persons because they will have most likely, it's have the answer. So my question basically is, what is the 10th Dan? And how does one get that 10th Dan? Right. So we'll start off with Sensei Copeland, if that's possible. I like to put it in here. He usually cuts the grass really well. So how about that? What is that, Dan? And how does somebody get something like that?
Well, I don't know what a 10th Dan is because I don't have one. I don't have anything to relate it to. But I mean, a 10th Dan would signify that you have reached a height of training, comprehension. You are at the level where an organization that you belong to may have, or a board of people may have designated you that level so that you can lead or be the head focus person of the people that are following in your footsteps. 10th Dan to me would be something that would, very few would be able to achieve because of a certain age seniority that should be associated with that.
Right? Sensei Taylor?
Well, 10th Dan, much like Sensei Copeland, I can't say much. I don't have a 10th Dan, but to me, it's somebody who's gone above and beyond their martial arts training. Who's seeked out maybe doing other arts too and bringing it all together to help their art.
Adette? Sensei?
I guess I'm not allowed to say they took my answer because Sensei Copeland already said we're not allowed to answer that.
Like,
Um, again, I don't have one, so
that's
you know,
fine.
this is.
Yeah.
But to me, a 10th Dan is an incredible amount of responsibility. It is a leadership role that is so complex. You need to have incredible skill, knowledge, wisdom, but then there's integrity and just the character ethic that really needs to go along with that. For me to look at somebody and say like, wow, that this 10th Dan, this is really impressive. Like this somebody that I could see myself aspiring to one day become. Responsibility, I think it's a huge responsibility.
This we know.
Well, I guess I've known three people in that situation. One, Hachi Legacy, is you. My teacher in Japan, Yamaguchi Sensei, was made 10th Dan shortly before he passed away. And then I also train fairly regularly with Yahagi Sensei, who they don't do Dan ranks in the old martial arts styles, but he was designated as Soke, right? The sort of hereditary inheritor of the system that he trains in. And one of the things that I think is in common in all those things is that the person that holds that title or rank is a representative of the art, right? They are the art. The decisions they make steer the art. And when someone looks at them, at least in the confines of the dojo, and hopefully in life too, they say, you know, this person carries himself in such a way, and this person marches the system forward in such a way that they're the exemplar, the template, right? This is what we should aspire to. And that's a common across all three of those.
Well, well, that is true. I'm going to try to throw a couple of things in because I'm really, I'm trying to send the idea out so that people do know what a 10th Dan is, so that if somebody stands in front of them and claims to be a 10th Dan, and you're not sure, then you can check that out. First of all, a 10th Dan has to be a 9th Dan first. You know, you don't just go you don't go from a 6th Dan to all of a sudden claim yourself, you know, a 10th Dan. And lessons are not given up very easily from the 5th Dan up. You need, in order to be a 6th Dan from a 5th Dan, you need to do 6 years. And then once you're a 6th Dan, if you want to be a 7th Dan, you need to do 7 years. Because lessons in martial arts build on themselves. And if you don't spend the time, martial arts is not going to give you the answer. It's very stingy by giving up its secrets. So you need to spend that time. So I saw a gentleman from Quebec put up a chart. You know, you should be like 70 years old before you're a 10th Dan. Because if you go 6 years to a 6th Dan, 7 years to a 7th Dan, 8 years to an 8th Dan, 8 Dans to a 9th Dan, and then almost another 10 years to a 10th Dan. You know, that's what happened to me. It took that much time, right? You take, for instance, being good does not make you a 10th Dan. You know, you have a guy like Gretzky. I'm just using this for an example. In his rookie year, say he scores 60 goals. Like, he is good. He's the best on the ice. But he's not a veteran, right? Yeah. He went on in his following years, become greater and greater, and then, of course, the greatest, right? You know, and the other thing I'd like to say, you know, don't embarrass yourself. Like I talk to young guys who call themselves grandmasters and, oh yeah, I'm a 10th Dan, and the guy's like 38. Like, I mean,
I know one of those guys.
yeah, me too, unfortunately. So how does one get that? And this, you do not pass a test for a 10th Dan. You know, you do up to, grade 9, you get yourself to being a grandmaster or a hanshi and a ninth dan. But this is what happens. If the 9th, 10th in your association, like somebody mentioned, I believe was Sensei Copeland, if the 9th dan in your association dies, you're in line to be appointed, or you're in line to take over that position. Say if I passed on right now, Scott Bowen in our dojos is in that lineage, like he's a 9th dan. Just that's an example of that. Okay. And or if you're in an association and you don't have a 10th dan, and there is a 9th dan, you can have, I believe it was Sensei Copeland again, I'm not sure. You would have a panel of people elect you, have an election, or vote you into that position. And again, like Sensei Rice said, it's a post of responsibility. You know, yeah, I may not be the best guy, but I in that position. Like there are a lot of guys that are probably better qualified to be the president of the United States than, you know, some of the guys we've seen lately. But they are not, because they're not in line. They didn't run the certain situation to be in that position. Okay, so I'll just mention myself. I have a video of Sensei Sandoval, my sensei, giving me a 10th dan. Randy was there, and appointing me the domain of Canada to teach Matsumura's Hakitsuru, Matsumura's white crane. And like Randy said, it's not an entire style. There is only one kata that Matsumura invented, Hakitsuru Dai. But all the other masters since his time had built up katas around it. They went out and searched and brought them up and created a style. And in order, I'm certainly not the only guy. I may not even be the best guy in this white crane, but I was next in line. I was his student for a long time. I was a 9th dan, and he appointed me a 10th dan and placed me in Canada. So it's not, you know, going out and doing your katas or beating this other guy up, or not even being the best guy in your style. So I guess I warned that out. Somebody else's turn. Host, I guess. Randy, you want to say anything about that?
Sorry, Sensei, I'm just getting back, so I'm not even sure what the question is or where we've gotten to.
Okay, I just asked what a 10th dan was and how does one get it? And we pretty well covered it all. You might just want to pass on that.
No problem.
Back to whoever's running the show.
Well, the monkeys are running the circus right now. I think though we gave Hanshi the first question, and I can't remember the order. Do we give Kyoshi Rice the second question?
Sensei Copeland is going to
Sensei
take over
Copeland?
with his next question
Awesome.
in the order that he wants to ask it.
All right.
Okay, super. So my question, I would like to have Hanshi Legacy answer first, and then Sensei Suino, and then we're going to have Sensei Taylor, we're going to have Sensei Rice, and then Sensei Dauphin, you're going to answer last because I think you're the youngest of all of us here. Are you? You're not the youngest?
Thank you, though. Thank you. I'm
Who's
not.
the youngest?
I'm for
No,
sure
I'll
old.
be
I guess
49 next month.
Okay,
I
so
think-
it's Sensei Taylor that's the youngest.
Who's the youngest?
Oh,
Wow, it's just a baby. So here's my question. With all the years of experience that we have, like as the panel that we are today, the years of experience that we have, if you had a chance to do over, what would you change in terms of teaching and training? If we had a chance to do over any part of, you know, based on the experience that we've accumulated over the years, what would you change?
I personally, because I did a lot of fighting, did a lot of fighting. I thought karate was all about fighting at the very beginning. That's why I joined, right? But
Right.
I would delve myself into kata and discover myself more, my weaknesses, my strengths at the very beginning, because I would have had a more intelligent run at the martial arts. Because uh, you get a lot of benefits from kata. Kata, it prepares your mind for certain things. For instance, we've mentioned this before. How can somebody go up as a martial artist, say, to defend somebody's life? And the guy pulls a knife on you. Are you going to hesitate punching him in the neck, in the throat? Or are you going to hesitate if there is multiple attackers to hitting the person as hard as you can and possibly killing them? Whereas in kata, you build that confidence up and you train your mind to be able to do that and to choose when that is necessary. Just like a police officer, when a young man has a gun and he's going to shoot say a woman, and what is that police officer going to do? He's going to have to take somebody's life, right? And so I think it prepares you in a lot of different, physically, mentally, and even spiritually, on that level, be able to make the right choice with the killing art that we've all trained in. So I would delve myself very heavily into kata.
Thank you. Sensei Student, I think it's you next.
If I had a chance to do it over, what would I do differently? I have three things come to mind. One is, I started judo when I was a kid, and I took 4 years off for high school gymnastics. And even though gymnastics made me a better martial artist, it took me out of my prime competing years, I think, in judo. And I'm a good judo technician, but I was never the judo competitor that I think I had the potential to become. So that's one. Two, I would have moved to Japan earlier. I was running around in this small pond, feeling pretty good about myself. And then when I got to Japan, I realized, well, how big the world really was. I learned so much. It was profound. But I think the most important thing I could have done, and I don't know how I would have gone about doing this, I wish I had gotten better mentorship about how to train, how to interact with teachers, right? What to look for, what to ask, what kind of attention to pay to them. I just had to kind of wander around and make it up myself. And I was a bit of a blockhead for, I don't know, the first 62 years of my life. And uh, I just didn't use my time or my mind as efficiently as I could have. There's more potential left on the table. And I wish I had, like Hanshi Legacy, started working with Sensei Richard Kim at one point, right? Changed a lot of the way you think about martial arts, right? If I had met somebody of my teacher Yamaguchi Sensei's stature who spoke good English and was willing to guide me about my path, that would have made a huge difference. I wish if I could do it over again, that's probably the main thing I would have done.
Thank you. Who's next? I think Sensei Rice.
Okay. I would have started sooner. My mother actually wanted me to start training when I was 12. The dojo had just opened in our neighborhood, and she was like, encouraging me to do that, and I was way too cool for that. So I said no, and then I found myself in the dojo 6 years later. So starting sooner, taking that opportunity when it was there. I would have taken better care of my injuries, because I have some long-standing injuries. I could have done better to take care of myself, because they give me grief almost every day. And I would have done more fighting. So Hanchi said more kata. I did lots of fighting in the dojo, but I waited a long time before I started fighting in competition. And I wish I had started that when I started competing in kata, because once I did start fighting competitively, I loved it. I had fun with it. And I think I missed out on some development and opportunities there.
Cool. Fighting does up your game.
Yep.
Sensei Taylor, I think it's you next.
What have I would have done there? Well, I think I would seeked out more instructors when I was younger, and hopefully could have moved closer to one of the cities like Oshawa and that to find more instructors, as I did when I got older. And you know, like Sensei Rice said, take care of some long-standing injuries. I'm sure we all have those. I know I do, and probably would help my train a little better if I didn't have some of those. And I think I would have looked more into the philosophy side of things and brought that more into my training instead of just fighting a few times and just being all about, let's just bust knuckles.
Cool. Thank you. Sensei Dauphin?
This is a great question, Sensei Copeland. This is a great question. For me, the first thing that comes to mind is something I talked to Sensei Suino a long time ago, probably like 15 or 17 years ago. I said I was going to stop letting myself be limited by other people. I was going to stop being, and I wish I had done that sooner. Like 17 years ago, I decided to do that. And again, we talked about this before, not to name names, right? But I was in not a great relationship with a really good person. Like the person was really good, but it limited a lot of what I was doing, a lot of where I could, a lot of things. And I wish I had just changed that a little sooner, right? I think had I changed that a little sooner, maybe I would have competed just a little bit longer than I did. And I think I would have liked to have competed just a little bit longer than I did. Not a lot longer, but I would like to have competed a little more. One thing for sure, I would have really liked to have opened this dojo sooner than I did. And I think allowing myself to be limited by the expectations of other people, people that are very close to you, out of fear. Really, it was just fear-based, right? People aren't going to like me. They're not going to support me. I'm somehow going to get punished. But lo and behold, when I ended that one relationship and burned my boat, things instantly got way better. And I wish they had gotten way better sooner. Not only did they get way better for me, they got way better for my kids. They got way better for my teachers and all the people around me. And I wish I had learned that lesson sooner, right? But I still wish I had learned all the lessons from that relationship that I learned as well. Like I don't really want to trade it, but I just wish I had started sooner.
That's
How about you?
fantastic. What's that?
How about you? You got to answer your own question, right?
Oh, absolutely. What I would have liked to have done better, which I've started doing of late, is giving my students an opportunity to record, make records, make a logbook of their experiences, who they train with, competition that they go into, traveling. I've done a lot of traveling, competed, all over the place and met a lot of great people. And I can remember some of those events, but I can't detail exactly, the whole event. And recording all that to me would have been an advantage to have, because really, I'm learning now in my later years, not like just today, but that living life and making memories is what it's all about. Living life and making memories. The problem is our memory is not that good. So recording these events, making a note of things that you do, who you meet, when you met them, what happens, then you can always review it whenever the time comes. And those memories come back really sharp if you have details. And details is what sometimes we're lacking because, when we get older. Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question, your question, Sensei Copeland, since
Yes.
we are recording this right now and we are making memories. Do you have 2 or 3 memories that you wish you had recorded? Like a top 1 or 2 or 3 that you're like, man, I wish I could watch this one again on a video, or I had more details of that?
Well, I don't, only because the ones that I remember, I've recorded them since.
Oh, nice.
So this is not something that is brand new to me, but I can tell you places that I've been, but I can't remember the details of everything there, but just maybe the outcome. So the ones that I remember that I thought they were like up there, yeah, they're recorded. And one of the advantages that I've had since I've been in martial arts for a while is I've been a lot of places, and the friendship and camaraderie that you make through the martial arts by traveling and competing, I mean, those are genuine. Those are good. It's not just somebody from the neighborhood, you know. So you want to keep those people in your memory alive, and sometimes you just have to review them. Look through your scrapbook or your logbook, or, you know, these days we have cameras. We can just shoot a snapshot, shoot a picture. Every time Sensei Rice goes to a tournament, I know, because she records it, and those memories last forever. You can't take those away. Kenji Takashima, one of my premier students, when he came to the dojo, he was 5. His feet could not touch the floor, and we recorded him training. The gloves that we were using at the time was twice as big as he was, but that old video, it's priceless when you see that, and you see that how he was and who he is today. Like, you can't just rely on memory. You need to be able to visualize that from some kind of a footage. So I tell my students now, record everything you do, make a note of it. It's going to be valuable one day, and you won't have to stretch yourself while trying to remember what it is or where it is or who it was.
I remember you fighting in the World Championships. I was sitting this is a memory for you. I was sitting in the bleachers with Benny Allen.
All right.
We were watching you fighting with, I don't know if it was Hamilton or Toronto. Do you remember where it was?
It was probably Hamilton, but I did both.
Yeah. Anyway, that was an excellent fight. That's when I personally noticed that you were a first-class fighter.
Thank you very much. Some of those matches, those were back in the days where you could actually punch people. They were pretty good.
Oh yeah. And then you're right. Like, I don't have any of the fights. Like, you had to have a movie camera in my day. Was it invented? Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah, they were. The giant VCR recorder. Oh my God, they looked like a brick. You know,
Tick,
one of
tick,
those.
tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, exactly. Huge things. Can you imagine? Oh my God. But that's what there was at the time. Next.
It is you, Sensei Suino. It is time for you to ask your question in the order that you would like it asked.
I have a 2-part question. Part
Get your
1.
pens and paper ready. Get your
Get your
pens.
pens and paper. 2 parts. This is personal, and
Then I
so
love
remember that this show goes out internationally. So,
Oh,
what's a personal weakness or blind spot that martial arts has helped you overcome? And part 2 is what was it about the martial arts that helped you overcome it? So, what's a personal weakness or blind spot? And I don't necessarily mean a physical one. What's a personal weakness or blind spot that martial arts helped you overcome? And what was it about martial arts training that helped you overcome it? Kyoshi Rice?
this one's easy for me. I am incredibly shy, and like painfully shy. Even as a small child going to see my grandparents, I was too shy to speak to my own grandparents. And it comes from a place of lack of confidence, and just not wanting to be embarrassed. And you cannot have longevity in the martial arts without challenging that confidence. And confidence comes from knowledge and experience. So as I became more knowledgeable, I became more confident. And teaching really kind of solidified that for me. Now I'm still very shy, and For any of you guys who have seen me out in social settings, you know, I kind of hang to the back or stick with the people that I'm, you know, really close to. I don't put myself out there, but I am more likely now to take those opportunities and embrace the challenge of talking to new people and creating discomfort for myself, because martial arts is uncomfortable. And I've learned to stay in the zone of discomfort, not in a negative way, just constantly living on the edge of that. And that has really helped me push that shyness to the back. It's still there, but I now have the tool to not let it hold me back.
Great answer. Love it. Renshi Taylor, how about you?
Toughening up. So
Mhm.
I remember I was like yellow orange belt. I got into a fight at school, and that guy kicked my ass. And I'm like, I vowed to never let that happen again. So I just started sparring more, training harder, got together with some friends that trained, and basically just kicked the snot out of each other until I learned to take a punch. So it helped me overcome that, getting tough, and being able to take a punch. And now that I've been married for several years, I'm more of a lover than a fighter.
There's a
What a
lot of
bunch-
people that might argue with you
Yeah,
on that one.
What a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to tell you, when you're in his guard and he smiles at you, he gives you that smile, you know you're in for a rough ride. When
That's love. That's
yeah,
love.
he was using me. This is, as I'm getting on top of him, he goes, "I'm sorry, Randy." He says, like, he says, "I'm sorry, Randy." And he hadn't even done anything yet. I just knew it was going to hurt. That's what I knew.
Love it. Love it. Hunchy Legacy, what's a personal weakness or blind spot that martial arts has helped you overcome? And what was it about the martial arts, the training, that helped you overcome it?
When I actually started, everybody thinks they're better than they really are. Everybody,
Mm.
right? And I really wanted to fight in the top class of black belt fighters. But when I was coming up, I was coming up in London and Harold Warden's club, and I had John Pearson and a bunch of really good fighters in my club. And I thought to myself, if I want to go out and compete with guys like Tony Facchetti, Wally Slokey, who I never fought, etc., I would have to at least become better in my own club in order to go outside. And basically whenever I just looked, because I didn't know what karate was when I first started. So basically, whenever anybody else did anything, I did twice as much. I went at home after doing karate all day. I'd go at home. I'd stand in front of a mirror and mirror all the techniques and threw like hundreds of punches a day. It's what I thought, would make me better than everyone else. So, and then the next thing was I feared facing those guys because they were like Rick Joslin and all those guys, right? So I eventually started to go out and I went to smaller tournaments, then bigger ones, and then the Karate Zone, in Sensei Burkowski's in Toronto, and then at the CNE, and I started to get fairly. I started winning a couple of those, so that's what it was for me. It was like fear of the good fighters, fear of the top line fighters that, you're going out there and like Sensei Copeland can tell you, and the back of my hands can tell you from cuts and everything from toenails and getting punches in the face and everything. It was different than now. It wasn't, you jump up in the air with the little mittens on and you come within 4 inches of the guy's face and you get a point. I got Tony Facchetti one time. I shifted in on him at the Canadian Nationals. And the next thing I thought I was the Canadian flag. I saw my feet out in front of me and they were doing this. And then I just dropped down on my back, so I was afraid of that. Then after a while, you sort of effing up. So that's what it was with me. I was afraid of the big guys.
Speaking of big guys, Sensei Copeland, what is a personal weakness or blind spot that martial arts has helped you overcome?
You know I'm only 5'7", right?
Me
Well,
too.
you're,
Just-
you're,
just
you're a
to be
big
clear.
man. You're a big
Just-
man. There's
just
no
to be
question about it.
Just to be clear. That's an interesting question, but back in the earlier days, I had a fear of hurting people with my martial arts. You know, you train for a while and you think you're getting pretty good. And I was actually nervous about doing something to someone using my martial arts and hurting them. And, you know, sometimes you're just sitting around just daydreaming and the image pops in your head of you doing something and just completely hurting somebody. And you have to shake it off and like get distracted and start doing something else. And the only way I overcame that was I started practicing punching as hard as I can at, you know, punching device, like mostly the punching bag or the speed bag, which we used to have hung up. Punching as hard as I can at it and not hitting it. As if I was going to punch somebody, but I would come so close and not touch them. And that just kind of helped me build the confidence in the control that I could execute should I need it to. But that was one of my biggest fears for the longest time, is hurting people. Now I have the control. I'm not afraid to hurt someone, because if somebody gets hurt, it's because they deserved it. So now it's okay.
I've seen you hurt a couple of people.
That was an accident. That was an accident.
I'm not sure it was. I'm not 100% sure about that.
They moved. When Sensei says, don't move, don't move.
Randy, how about you? What's a personal weakness or blind spot that martial arts helped you overcome? What was it about martial arts that helped you overcome it?
Well, there's two. And because they were blind spots, I didn't even really know that I had them until they were pointed out to me. And it was for sure Sensei Legacy who pointed them out to me. Like, it was for sure him who said, one was, I think he must have said to me about 110,000 times, you're not ready. You're still not ready. You've been punched in the head 15 times now, and you're still not ready. You don't go in the ring ready. You're not ready to fight. You think you're ready, but you're not ready. And so I think it really, like, what helped me overcome that was just, you know, some different tactics before I was going to compete. So things like, you know, Sensei Legacy said the night before, get all your equipment out, lay all your equipment out, get it ready, inspect it, make sure everything's good, iron your uniform the night before, get your belt ready. And then doing those things start like, okay, well, I'm getting ready because I'm going to fight. Why am I doing this shit? Because I'm going to fight tomorrow. Right. And then that stuff starts to just, and then actually, you know, Sensei Copeland, you like in some of your sessions about, you know, when you stand across, make sure when you stand across from the ring, you're the first one there. And when that other guy comes to the ring, he's number two. And when you go in the ring, you bow to the referee first and you look up and you make sure when that guy looks up, they have to look into your eyes first. Then I felt I'm okay, I'm ready. And then actually things started to get better then. Like I started to, before that, I didn't always win, like, but in the end, when I was ready and I had overcome those mistakes, you know, I went on about a 6-year tear where I never lost a tournament fight other than disqualification. And some of those were on purpose. So, so I'll just leave that at that. The other one I still struggle with, Sensei, you know, and it's another one that Sensei Legacy's pointed out to me many, many times when I've talked to him about something and I'll be at his house and I'll be flabbergasted. I'll be so pissed off or so upset about something. And he repeatedly says to me, your problem is that you expected it to be a certain way. Like as you started into it, you had an expectation that it was going to be a certain way. And that's because you think everybody thinks like you and everybody is the same as you, but they're not the same as you. So stop expecting them to think like you. Stop expecting them to be standing in the spot where you would be standing. Stop expecting all these different things. And I'm still struggling with that. As you know, Sensei, like, I bitch to you and Sensei Legacy about stuff more than anybody on the face of the earth. I look at you guys, look at me like, why in the hell did you think it was going to turn out that way? It was never going to turn out that way. So yeah, those would be the two. I'm still working on one. The other one innately just through the training. You can only get your ass kicked so many times before you start to wake up the night before and get yourself ready to do things. And then now that helps me in my life all the time. I don't go into meetings unprepared at work. When I get in my car, I don't just get in and jump in. I think about where I'm driving to. I think about where the pain points on that road are going to be. That like permeates all levels of my life now, as consciously as I can, as much as I can. These guys will have to still all keep helping me with the expectation side of things.
Cool.
Like some things I know for sure, like if Scott Taylor gets a hold of your wrist, you can expect to be in pain a couple milliseconds later. I'm okay with that one.
That's a certainty, like death and taxes.
Right. So I think, you got to answer your own question, since
Oh, I do indeed. Let's see. Two answers. One is I was a fearful kid about physical pain. When I was a little kid, I was one of those kids that didn't like getting, pushed or fall down or scrapes or whatever. I was just too sensitive a kid. But that went away really fast in the early days of judo, and it's continued to go away, right? At some point in a martial arts career, we get to the point where we recognize that pain is something to pay attention to, but it's no longer a driver of fear. It was definitely a big driver of fear for me when I was a kid. But the other thing is, I was a dreamer, and I just hoped things would come around the way I wanted them to when I was young and probably into my early 20s. Martial arts has changed me. I'm still a dreamer, but now I recognize the work and I embrace it, right? I understand the discipline and hard work. And I'm happy that I haven't given up being an optimist and someone that believes that the future is unlimited. I just am a little more, I'm a little wiser about how much work is between the dream and the reality than I used to be.
Love it. I believe that we are going to Sensei Rice is going to ask the next question and the order that she wants it answered in.
Okay. So mine is, my question comes from the perspective that we are all instructors. We all have students, and I'm always looking to add things to my toolbox to make me a better instructor. So that's why I'm asking this question. This is very selfish. I am wanting to take from you guys what your experience has given you. What advice do you give to students to prevent burnout? And if you have athletes who are or students who are competitive, how do you help them not fall into a negative spiral when things don't necessarily go their way? So preventing burnout and maintaining a positive mindset. Sensei Taylor.
I tell my guys, if they're getting burnt out or the guys that compete, just take a day or two off, relax, take your mind, go somewhere else. Right? I understand you have to train for a tournament, but there's nothing wrong with taking a day off and just relaxing and decompressing and thinking about something else for a change. And, just reset yourself and then come back, hopefully stronger and more willing to learn and not get that burnout again.
Awesome, thank you. Sensei Copeland.
Yeah, sometimes we get, overzealous and burnout happens. But definitely you need time for the body to regenerate, cells to regenerate, the aches to heal. There's only so much you can do in a day, but keeping what the goal is, the end goal, keep that in mind constantly, and allowing yourself a schedule where you can focus on the goal, give the body enough rest so you can focus more on the goal. And as far as the being negative when things are going bad, is understanding that not everybody wins every match every time. Winning to me is accidental, because you could do as much as you have to, and the other team or the other person, they still beat you. But learning is on purpose. If you win, you learn. When you lose, you learn. The winning part comes. Sometimes you win a match, you go, my God, I didn't believe I would win that match. It's accidental. Even though you're prepped for it, they could still beat you. So understanding and realizing that winning is just part of the game. Losing is a bigger part of the game, so you can be a winner in the end, for sure.
Thank you. I think I might have to have winning is accidental put on a coaching shirt for when I'm out there at the tournament. So when somebody comes out all happy, I can go, or
Yeah.
if they're sad and they've lost.
I have a
right?
mantra that I have a mantra that I do with my kids when we have, the class competition to create their sense of value and make them work harder, is they will chant, 2 will enter, 1 will win. 2 will enter, 1 will win. With my 6-year-old knows that 2 will enter, 1 will win. And if you win, you polish. If you lose, you work harder. So either way, you're at it,
Yep. Awesome. Hunchy Legacy.
Of course, you take a break. Everybody needs to relax, right? So if you don't want to lose your step, you train without competing. Just train in the now. Just train from the inside out, as opposed to worrying about what's going on out there. So you're building yourself up. You're not having to worry about being defeated by someone else, right? And the thing is, there's no such a thing as perfection. So don't train yourself to try to be perfect. You defeat another person, Sensei Copeland said it again, you defeat another person by their mistakes. If they don't make those mistakes, you're not likely going to win. If you just imagine a pitcher who can only throw strikes faces a batter who can only hit home runs. What's going to happen when the guy releases the ball? There's no such a thing. You have to train from the inside and start making yourself better. And if the other person doesn't make themselves better, that's how you win. It's by mistakes. That's how life is. Okay, so I would say do kata. Build yourself up from the inside. You don't necessarily have to take a break. You have to give your mind a rest.
Thank you. Sensei Suino.
You're muted.
It's
Sensei.
muted.
No, I'm not muted, but I may be slow. I may be slow, but I'm also kind of stupid.
That was good.
Lord.
Yeah, so I think there's something kind of in common between preventing burnout and maintaining a positive mindset. And that is, a lot of times those things are just that people don't know what to do next. They could say, oh, I'm burned out. I think a lot of times what that means is, well, I've been doing the same thing too much and I need a fresh look at it. I need to do something else or a fresh start. Or they go, I lost and now I'm depressed. Well, maybe you just need to know what to do next. Now, my answer is usually get back in the dojo. But I'll put you a little spin on this. I'm not sure my job is to prevent burnout. I almost think part of my job is to make sure that people go until they have an existential crisis about their martial arts. And if they quit, it wasn't meant to be. And if they make it through, then they're going to make it through till the next one. And some of them are going to be there 30 years later. So, right. We make it pretty chill and friendly compared to the old days. But at the end of the day, everybody can't be a grandmaster. And, you know, I'll help them see what the next steps are. But if at the end of that, if they decide it's not for them, they shouldn't be there.
Sensei Dofer?
I'm really excited to hear your answer, Sensei Rice, because I've blathered on a lot about what a great teacher you are and what a great club you run and how good your students are. And if people don't know that, it's the truth. While you're one of my best friends, I also really do look up to you as an instructor and a business owner and a teacher, because your students are very, very good. They're really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
But my answer to that question is, it really depends. Is it a little kid? Because you weren't asking me what I do for myself. You asked, as a teacher, what do I do for my students, right? So it really depends if it's a little kid or if it's a teenager or if it's an adult. And then I expect them all, when they get their ass in the door, to be training hard. Like, once you get in here, I don't care if you're burned out. I don't care if you're injured. I mean, I care, but you're going to train, and you're going to train as much as you possibly can. Once you bow in and you step on the floor, you've made your commitment for that hour and a half. And whether your knee is like swelled up or whatever's going on, I expect you to fulfill your commitment to the best of your ability, right? Now, when it comes to little kids, they get bored, like, period. But they don't quit karate. Their parents quit karate, right? Their parents cave to the pressure, and their parents are the ones who let them do some other thing. And I always say to the parents, that's the people I talk to. And I say, are you going to let them quit math class? Are you going to let them, they don't have to go to school tomorrow if they don't want to? Well, if there's intrinsic value in martial arts training, which there is, and you're the parent, you need to make them come. And then don't worry if they complain when they get home. Just don't listen to them, right? Like, and don't worry about them when you push them on the floor, because then it's my problem. It's not your problem at that point. And I'm good at dealing with it, right? Teens, I expect teens to have a first girlfriend, have a first boyfriend, want to go to the high school, want to do this stuff. And how I help with that is to be really interested in it, right? Tell me about it. Oh, tell me about that dance. Come to class tomorrow. I want to hear about that dance. I want to hear about what happened that day. I want you to share it with me. And not only do I want you to share it with me, I want you to share it with other people in the room. I want you to make some connections with other people, right? With adults, I don't know. I kind of take Sensei Suino's approach to that. It's like, this is sore. Guess what? This is the best you're ever going to fucking feel. You're never going to feel better than this. Right? It's not getting better tomorrow. You're going to be more sore tomorrow. And this is part of the life. Now, as a teacher, what I would advise people to do is make a change. It doesn't have to be a huge change. And it doesn't mean like quit karate and go do something else, tiddlywinks. What I mean is, if you're competing with a certain kata day in and day out and day in and day out, maybe I'm going to just tell you, you need to take a break from that kata, and I'm going to pull you aside and I'm going to start teaching you a new kata or a weapons kata or something to just get you excited again and get you freshened up a little bit and give you a break from that thing that's burning you out. I think as last thing I'll say before we go to you is, I also think sometimes it's really good if you have connections and training partners in the dojo, so that when you're burnt out and you're tired, you know that that other person is there waiting for you to get there, and they want you to be there, and they're looking to train with you, and they're excited for you to show up. So I really like the community here. I really encourage it to, hey, you train with you. Hey, let's shuffle the deck. You train with this new person tonight. No, that can't be your partner. Sorry, Stavros and Christine, you guys have trained together too much. You got to go find some new partners and train tonight with two different people, right? Those are a couple of the things I do as instructors with people.
My turn.
Your turn. Can't wait to hear it.
Um, the training partner, accountability partner is what I like to call them. Most of my black belts all trained with an accountability or a training partner in the period leading up to black belt. And they helped prevent the burnout from happening. But I am of the mindset there's two types of burnout. You've got physical burnout when the body is just not healing, you're not resting, you're not fueling, you're not nourishing, and you got to take care of that. When it comes to physical burnout, I redirect the students. You know, if you've been just really grinding on your strength training, then let's focus on some stretching. Let's work on mobility. Let's work on just constant redirecting. It also helps with boredom. But I am a believer in the existential crisis. Sometimes, well, answering from my question before, I live in a state of discomfort. I think you have to be uncomfortable to grow. So if I see that a student is really on the edge, there's a lot of real struggle, then I will pull that back. I think there's a certain amount of understanding that has to go into watching those crises happen, because some students can fall pretty far. But I think that we have our biggest breakthroughs when we have those struggles. The negative mindset or the spiral that comes, I believe that's tied to the burnout as well. I watch students who fail at a tournament and then they hit the dojo again and they're just trying to grind harder at all the things that they were doing before the competition. And then they're starting to get hurt and they're starting to get frustrated. Redirect. Let's work on something else. Let's try something else, brand new, you know, revisit. Let's do some yoga. Let's do some breathing. Let's do some kata. Let's figure this out. Don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So redirect, accountability partners, push it to the edge of your comfort zone and have those breakthroughs. That's what I do.
I agree with that. I want to also say something that all of us do. We all lead by example. Everybody on this call helps their students by asking them to do things that we're all doing. We all go to the dojo every day. We all train our katas and fight every day. And the kids and the students all see that, and that helps them, whether we think it does or whether even if we're just doing it for ourselves. When they walk in the door and they see me all sweaty practicing my katas, they're like, hey, they see that and they learn from that. I've watched Sensei Suino do his karate and his Iaido. I've watched Sensei Legacy do his karate. I've seen all of you training and your students admiring you from across the room. So, and I think if we stop doing that, you'll see people will get burnt out and quit a lot faster.
I find that sometimes young people mistake laziness for being burnt out. They're just, somebody under 16 says to me, "Oh, I'm so tired." I said, "You can't be tired. You're 16 years old."
Exactly.
Christ, crying out loud. How can you possibly be tired at
Right.
16? You're just lazy.
Nice.
And I tell them, you're lazy.
So that's nice, positive and uplifting, right? You tell them they're lazy, and I tell them they should quit.
The thing about martial arts is you can go in there and you can improve your entire life. But if you're lazy and you don't have the intestinal fortitude, martial arts will pick you up, chew you up, and spit you back out into the street. Where now is you're twice as worse as you were before because you couldn't even do that. You know what I mean? So you end up in a worse place than you were before.
If you find the right person, you tell them that they're lazy, they want to go harder to prove to you that they're not.
Exactly right. That's right. Yeah.
You tell them you need to quit because you're not ready. They're going to show you that they're not going to quit, and they are ready. So
Yeah.
it works.
Yes, it does. Yeah. You lose a few though.
You got to be okay with that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
You said that, Sensei Copeland. You said to me once, it's not if they quit, it's when they quit. And they're all going to quit. And that's the reality, is that we're in what did you say, Sensei Suino? than 3% of the global population ever even started martial arts. And then however many of them stayed, if we use Sensei legacies, you got to be 30 years in to not be a quitter. That's like a percent, like a point whatever percent. So yeah, since Svino's trying to drive them out of the dojo, Sensei Copeland, you understand it's not if they quit, it's when they quit. And such legacy just tells you you're lazy, right? You're a quitter.
Well, this is an elite pursuit, and we got to keep it that way.
So I want to go to Sensei Rice's next class where she's like, you need to quit. On that positive note, Sensei Taylor, it's your question.
All right. So my question is, I want to know what you guys do if somebody comes into the dojo, wants to train, but fighting depression or just trying to come out of their shell. How do you guys handle that?
Can you give a little more depth on that question, Sensei Taylor? Like when you say that, are you talking about somebody who is like has a mental deficiency and or are you talking about somebody who has a temporary problem, or are you talking about both of those? Like, what are you specifically asking?
Both of those.
Both of those.
Yeah. Because some people are, a little depressed. Some people are a lot of depressed. Some people have a hard time talking to other people or uncomfortable in crowds. Right? So if you're coming to a dojo, you're going to be in a crowd and you have to talk to people. So how do you guys deal with this situation? Start with you, Sensei Dauphin.
So it's interesting. Some people, when they come in with the problems, I just tell them this probably is not the place for you. Right? You just know instantly that it's not going to work. The way I teach, what you're looking for, this is not going to line up. And I want to be really clear up front. Like you could still try your 2 weeks, but for example, if you come in with some cultural background that precludes you from actually participating in the training fully, then I'm probably going to say, like, I can't accommodate that. Like, I'm sorry. Like if you're in a wheelchair, I can accommodate that. But if you're just choosing not to participate in the training for something, there's other clubs that I'm not saying that training's not for you. It's just probably not this place isn't for you. If people are going through something temporary, like they're going through depression, or we're talking about mental things, I'm trying to keep in mind what we all just said about quit. Like we got to grind you out. You're lazy. Okay. But the reality is if they're a new person, then, I try and be supportive with that. Right. And give them what they can handle when they can, as they can handle it. Like, and I guess that's maybe true of people who even aren't going through. We all give the students what they can handle when they can handle it. Some people get a yellow belt in a year. Some people get a yellow belt in a year and a half. And that's just, everybody's on their own path, their own unique path. Now, when it comes to like the more like I have somebody who has Asperger's, right? Like they're a person who would just lose track of time. Like you'd have to go into the change room and they'd be fully dressed and just like sitting there. And they just need a little more help, right? Like, so you do have to give that. I don't try and hold that person accountable to. Sensei Lacey said this once before too. I'm always going to quote him before he can say it. Makes me sound smart. Some people have 10 cents and some people have 7 cents. And no matter what, that's the way it's going to be, right? And so some people can achieve more, but some people that's all they have, and you have to work with them within that, right? So this person with Asperger's, like I guarantee you, I've just kept it pretty simple for him. The instructions when fighting, when doing things, just keep it at the level that they can handle it. And I'll tell you, he started when he was 7 and he's in his 30s now. And you don't want this fucking guy to hit you with a punch or a kick. the things he knows how to do, he knows how to do those things so well, and he still keeps coming and doing them. Right? Yeah, that's my answer. I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's it.
Oh, great answer. Great answer. Sensei legacy?
Well, if you have somebody like that, be gentle with them, start them slow, lead them into martial arts, don't push them, because, and when they do something that's, it might be minute, praise them for it and build them into being able to do something better. Praise goes a long way sometimes. They gain confidence. When you ask me in the 10 questions what my gift would be, like what the gift would be if I chose confidence, because confidence will give you the opportunity. When you start getting confident, you will try more things. So it'll give you that. It's your duty. You chose to be a samurai. In the long run, we're modern day samurai. And your duty is to be a man or a woman servant. And if you can't do that, do something else. I mean, that's sort of harsh, but do what you're meant to be. Be a good teacher. Again, it's your duty, and that's what you chose. I mean, it is hard, and there are some people that are not meant to be there, but your duty is to try. And then when they fail, and when they give up, then that's not your fault. You tried your best.
Good. Sensei Rice?
So we do we spend a good amount of time with all prospective new students. They do I won't call it an interview, but we have a lengthy exchange before they can enroll, and we learn a lot. They learn a lot about us, but we learn a lot about them in that initial conversation. And if I don't think that they're going to be a fit, if I don't think that we are going to be able to provide for them what they're looking for, then we'll just straight up say, this isn't going to be a fit. But I come from the mindset that everybody walks into the dojo with a need for something, and they might not even know what that need is. They may come in because they just have always wanted to train in a martial art. They want to learn how to kick ass. But very early on, sometimes it appears in that conversation, but sometimes it takes a class or two before that need becomes apparent. And like Hanshi said, we're gentle with them. If somebody comes in with confidence issues, if somebody comes in with anxiety, depression, they need a guide. They will get a teacher, but they also need a guide just to navigate the framework of what martial arts is, because it's very different from anything else anybody does. So we provide them that guide, and just regularly check in. How are you doing? How is the learning? How's the experience going for you? Now, when it comes to like more aggressive people coming in, or where you just see that somebody's probably going to be more risk than benefit, immediately we just send them on their way. But that interview that we do before they ever hit the mat is key to what we do.
What I'm hearing you say, Sensei Rice, is I should stop giving them a mouthpiece and fighting equipment and telling them to get out and fight them on the first class.
No, you do you, man. What works. What works.
My goodness.
Sensei Copeland?
Like, I know you're seven. I don't care. I know you're seven.
Oh, if I had $1 for every time I've said that.
One of the nice thing about this format is you get, a variety of opinions, and then your job, whoever asks the questions, is to be able to extract the parts of all those different ideas and make something new for yourself that's going to be beneficial, right? So it's kind of a unique situation that we have where we can take advantage of. We do have an interview process. Nobody gets on the floor unless they have an interview. We have extensive questions. We need to know what their goal is. They need to know what our expectations are. And then they have a couple of evaluation where they're going to be in a group setting where we evaluate them again. And after that, we have another shorter interview where we just kind of summarize. So this is what's going to be happening on a regular basis. Are you ready to do the work? So if there's issues, we'll sort that all out during the interview process, because it's really important to know what they're expecting and what we are expecting of them. And then, you know, if it's not going to work, they'll get a chance to see why it's not going to work, and then they'll make some kind of exit. But it's important to have the ability to sort out the situation, provide as much help as we can, and then if it's in their best interest, they'll stay. If it's not, then they won't. But you can't. No, we don't give them gloves and mouthpiece right away. That comes a little later.
Class 2.
Sensei Suino? Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that most of the time, whether if it's an adult, you know, you can talk to them straight up, face to face. If it's teens or young kids, and we talk to the parents straight up, face to face, because everybody needs to know. Once they're on the floor, kids are no longer belonging to parents once they're on the floor. They belong to you, the instructor. And if it's adult, once they're on the floor, they're yours.
Sensei Suino?
Yeah. We have a process like some of the other folks have described. Everybody that comes to JMAC has to watch a class. Then they have, if they like it, they sign up for 2 intro lessons. Those are private lessons with one of our black belts. And then they join for 2 months, at which point they get to decide if they want to continue after that. And we get to decide if they're going to continue after that. But, you know, as you talked, I thought of, you know, we have probably 4 or 5 people at JMAC now who are in their first 3 months or 5 months of training who have real social anxiety issues, right? They really struggle to be able to speak. They're not good in crowds, super shy. And we're big enough at JMAC now. We have enough black belts that I think we take pretty good care of them. You know, if they want to disappear in the crowd, they can kind of disappear in the crowd, you know, even though they're working one-on-one, there's a ton of people in the room. If they want to avail themselves of a black belt, they can train with a black belt. So we nurture them along and try to get them through that. So there's 2 sides, right? Some of the answers had to do with how you teach them technique and rank, and some of the answers had to do with, you know, how you address them, how you address their personalities, right? But, you know, being gentle, being positive, being encouraging, and gradually increasing the, you know, their technical challenges, but also gradually increasing the expectations for them to be more involved, right? To express themselves more, to participate, to communicate clearly. Yeah, obviously some people are never going to overcome their, you know, whatever issues they have. But, you know, as Randy knows, we've got a black belt, a showdown in judo, who's got English as his second language. And he's well into the Asperger's spectrum. But, you know, don't jump the guy in a dark alley, right? And by the way, as soon as he's done kicking your ass, he's going to go play Rachmaninoff's 3rd piano concerto. So, you know, we have a lot of success stories at JMAC, people that started with challenges and were able to stay and train a long time. But I think the key is just like with technical material, you have to give them what they can handle at first, and then you have to gradually increase as they get better and better able to handle it.
And, you know, before you answer your own question, Sensei Taylor, I think everybody here has 1 or 2 odds against making it, people who are odds against making it, who actually made it. And we all look at that, and that's like, as an instructor, that's your pride. right? You get to see that person graduate from university. You get to see that person. You got to play the long game with some of these people, not the short game.
Yeah.
Right? I've had students in here where the other instructors, when we meet, they're like, I think this person shouldn't be in class. And I'm like, why? Are they unsafe? Well, no, it's just hard for me to teach them. Well, that's your problem. That's not their problem, right? That sounds like a you problem, not a them problem. So you got to answer your own question, brother.
All right. So when they come in, and depending what it is, I said, martial arts can help you here and physically. So we'll do our best to help you mentally and physically. All right. And I do treat them sometimes with a little bit of kid gloves. So I want to make sure they're going to be comfortable and kind of fit in. But I make sure all my guys know kind of what the issue is so they can help bring that person up. Probably better than what I used to do was you come in, we just beat the hell out of you. Decide whether you're going to stay or not. So
Here's
that's
your
the way I
mother.
look. I just just come in, try it. Maybe my art isn't the best for you, but go try several arts, and you pick the best one that suits you. And that's whether I'm talking to parents or teens or adults.
Love it. So I think there's 2 questions left, if we can get to them, because we're into 12 minutes left in the show. So Benson's question might not get answered. He might not get an answer to his question. That's his problem for being a movie star and having to be. But my question is about something that's come up on this show quite a bit. We've talked about this quite a bit, and it's about pressure testing your martial art. And so I guess, I don't know if it's a 2-part question. I just want to know thoughts. I have a bunch of kind of random stuff I want to vomit out. So make sure you have your pen and your paper ready. So stuff like, do certain martial arts inherently pressure test their students just by the nature of the martial art? Do some martial arts just choose not to do it? And why would you choose not to pressure test your art? And can you think of any arts that would benefit, that their game would be elevated tremendously if they started pressure testing the thing that they're doing? So pressure testing, Sensei, you're looking confused, like actually fighting, slamming somebody, like not just kicking the air and punching the air, or not just waving your hands around and people are going to flip around. So I think, since, I'm going to start with you, because you're the one who brought up the idea of pressure testing your martial art. And that's the reason why I'm ruminating on it so much, because of our conversations. So do you think certain arts inherently pressure test? Do you think it's a person that makes it that way, an instructor? Like, what is it? And why is it good? And who should do it more? You're muted.
I've been pressure tested too much. I've been dropped on my head a lot, and it has made me a little silly. Listen, maybe I've been pressure tested too much. Look, how can you really call a martial art if it's not pressure tested? Kata is really important, right? If all you do is fight, you're a barbarian. If all you do is kata, you're a effete, you're a dancer. I have opinions. Do certain martial arts inherently pressure test? I think judo inherently pressure tests. You have to grab somebody's uniform and at least lift them off the ground, but probably throw them onto the ground too. And on the grappling side, you have to roll around, you have to pin them, you're dealing with somebody's body weight. BJJ inherently pressure tests. Karate that has a fighting aspect, a kumite aspect, inherently pressure tests. Do some martial arts choose not to do it? Well, Aikido is famous for having harmony And that often means, in my humble opinion, that some Aikido practitioners have an exaggerated idea of how effective their techniques would be if faced with a life or death situation. So Aikido would benefit from pressure testing. And also, I think MMA has been wonderful because it pressure tests martial arts against other martial arts that aren't necessarily the same as them, which is a whole new category, right? If karate only fights karate, it's not as interesting as if karate fights wrestling, or or if judo only fights judo, it's not as interesting as if judo fights Muay Thai. There's cool stuff that comes out of that. The first thing that I thought of was the Olympic style Taekwondo, where they're basically just kicking each other. I'd like to see that pressure tested against a really good Muay Thai guy who can not only kick you, but punch you in the face really hard too. So yes, some martial arts pressure test, some choose not to do it, and that's to their detriment. And every art where it's reasonable in any way, shape, or form to pressure test should do so. I have opinions.
Thank you, Sensei. Sensei Rice, what do you think about pressure testing? Which arts should do it more? Which arts inherently do it? What's your feelings about it?
Everything that Sensei Suino said.
Yes.
You know, like the grappling arts, the stand-up art, karate and the ones that have a combat element of fighting, a kumite element to them, they pressure test. I think all martial arts have to have some level of pressure test. Or how do you know? How do you know? How do you know what you're doing? How do you know if you know anything? I think it comes down to how it's being delivered, how it's being taught. I came from an organization. This happened after I left, but they eliminated kumite entirely. Like, then what are you doing? What are you doing? And I think there's different ways to pressure test, because there's different elements that we're working on. You've got mental pressure tests, you have physical pressure tests, and I think they're all necessary and essential. And the more pressure you apply to something, the closer you take it to a breaking point, the more you grow. So everybody needs to do it.
Thank you. Sensei, what are your thoughts about martial arts that
Talking to me?
don't apply? Yeah.
Well,
You're
to start with, if we're talking about people eventually doing it, it is a martial art. So when people come in, it's like if a guy goes to play football, he knows he's going to get roughed up, or play hockey. When people come in to do martial arts, a fighting art, they realize it's going to involve some type of content. So of course you have to do it. And if we go back, let's go back in the days of the samurai. Are they going to be wrestling around? I mean, you got guys with swords where there's no contact. Now, when I go to Sensei Suino's dojo to train, I don't want him to contact me with that sword, right? So I don't know what you mean by pressure testing there, but I know that when I look back and read about the past arts, like the sword would be probably the number one, but you don't do that now. You do it in kendo, but you beat each other up a little bit, but you wear all the equipment in that. Of course it has to, or you wouldn't be given body, mind, and spirit attitude that you would have to defend yourself in the street. And that's why you take martial arts. Sometimes you actually stand there and defend yourself, or you may do it for a health purpose, or you may do it for build yourself a stronger mind. But in my karate in Shorin-ryu was the first karate, and it's a street level karate. People don't understand that. When Funakoshi went to Japan, he sort of he never brought the white crane, and he eliminated a lot of the killing art at that point. So it's all about pressure testing. The art is pressure testing you for sure. or it's not that martial art, military art. So if I was to draw a parallel sort of is we are like the armies of the world. We are training now in peacetime to be able to use it for warring purposes. So that's sort of what we're doing, isn't it? Without, and same as the armies, they hopefully not kill their soldiers while they're practicing so they can give their lives during the real event. It's a
Thank you.
martial.
Thank you. Before I'm going to go to you next, Sensei Taylor, but before you do, I just want to say one thing to Sensei Suino and then another one thing to Sensei. So we're talking in generalizations here. If you're in front of Mustard Sensei and you think his Aikido is going to work, you're making a grave error. He's going to hurt you so bad. And in Sensei Suino's dojo, they do bokken fencing and they pressure test their Iaido with wooden swords and fight with each other. And I really respect that about the style of Iaido that Sensei Suino does, is that they actually, at a certain level, they actually do start to fight. And the only equipment they wear are glasses, so you can't get your eyes poked out. No gloves, and away you go.
Well,
Sensei Taylor.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, at the same time, they're shooting real bullets. They're just not killing each other. Right. So if that's what you meant, what I thought about EI is that's not what I meant. I meant that they are dangerous, but they're just doing it in peacetime.
I understand.
Yeah.
So Taylor, what do you have to say about that?
Well, like Sensei Suino said, judo and jujitsu, they get pressure tested all the time. And I know some styles of karate do. I know a few people have trained karate and they don't spar at all. And I'm like, well, how do you know it works? How do you know you can block that punch that's coming to your head? And I think some Aikido styles and even Tai Chi could use some pressure testing. I never trained Tai Chi, so I don't know if they pressure tested or not. But I know when Sifu Mark Maderos and I get together, we're big on pressure testing. We will get the knives out and pressure test it against grappling. He stabbed me so many times. But it has to be done, or you're not going to know it's work.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know. You won't. I've even known one guy who said he trains grappling, but he doesn't free roll. And I'm like, well, how do you know you can pull that move off? You've drilled it 1,000 times, but live roll is different. Right? You have to be able to put it together. Because if you're just drilling, your partner's only giving you so many percentage to train it. But in a live roll, well, you're pretty much doing 100%. That armbar you're trying may not work now. Right? And he's already countered and passed and submitted you or punched you in the head or kicked you or stomped on you. Right? So it's got to be done no matter what.
Thank you. Sensei Copeland, I can see the wheels churning in your head. This is either going to be the quickest answer in the history of punch kick choke chat.
He's going to say, yes, punch him in the neck.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think, some of the benefits that we aspire to get from martial arts, the confidence, the strength building factors, the flexibility, you can only realize those if you actually pressure test what you're doing. And it's hard for me to say which style should or which style shouldn't, but if you're doing martial arts, you have to pressure test your equipment to make sure that when you need it, it's going to be there for you. It's got to be reliable, and you got to test it every once in a while. I mean, you can wear armor to test it at a different level and keep everyone still safe, but the confidence comes from knowing that it's going to work. Only happens when you pressure test it. So if you're not getting pressure tested, I think it's a choice that the captain of the ship has made, the instructor. They don't want to do that for whatever the reason is. But I mean, I have to know that if that punch is coming in, I can do what I need to do to keep it away from hitting my face. And for sure, when I punch at you, if you can't block it, you're gonna get hit, 100%. So pressure testing is part of martial arts. How you do it, the
100.
level you take it, the level you take it to, that depends on you as the coach, you're the instructor, your level of experience, your ability to be creative, but you gotta pressure test it. When you need it for real, that's not the time to be testing it.
Right. I do not disagree. I was training with Sensei Legacy and some of the seniors in Legacy Shorin Karate Jitsu this morning in St. Thomas. And one of the things that came up was Itoshi Yatsune, who's a pivotal figure in all karate, like as far as, post Meiji Restoration and changing things. He made this really bold statement, which made me start thinking about this question. He said, if you only do do without jitsu, your martial art is useless. Right. And that's from a person who is trying to change things at the turn of the century to say, hey, there's a lot of benefit to your mind and body to just train kata and do your basics. But I think if you do any jitsu art, karate jitsu, jujitsu, I think the jitsu part of it, you can get the do out of it. You get all the other benefits of confidence and all those things. And the thing I like about the arts that pressure test is that the people who teach those arts, they have a really clear view of what is that actually works and what actually doesn't work. And the people who don't pressure test their martial arts, in my opinion, they're just like feeding you a fantasy. So, and they're expecting everybody to buy into that fantasy. And what I would like to see when I said which art should pressure test more, I'd like to see karate people pressure test their katas a little more. The karate people on the call, like we're talking about punching and kicking, but in the katas, there's lots of moves in there that aren't necessarily punching and kicking. There's elbows in there and takedowns and joint locks and throws and different things that, and when I go to different dojos and hear people say, oh yeah, I pressure tested my karate. Well, what did you do? Well, I fought. Yeah, but what about your kata? Right? Like, did you do, or you just did the kata for a warm up? No, it has a lot more benefit to you than that. If you actually get hands on with somebody and do your kata hands on with somebody, not just alone in the room. So I'd like to see more karate people pressure test specifically their katas. And I think, what's that, Sensei?
Bunkai.
Bunkai, yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. Sadly, we're at 10:04, which means we're 4 minutes over our end. So let's do, Benson doesn't get his question answered. Let's quickly just go around the horn. Any final thoughts on this show? And I'll direct that before we end this. Sensei Legacy, any final thoughts on this show? Anything that stands out for you that you really liked?
Well, a great show. A lot of good opinions. We're all senseis. The more we say something that is alike or we think alike, the more we should be convinced we're on the right track. Always have an open mind to learn from people like us. I'm including myself with yous. We should do this a bit more, have different guests like this and get some different ideas. But really, the last thing I'm going to say is all the martial arts, all the different martial arts train you internally the same. Like you may be doing jujitsu, EI, the internal parts, the spiritual part and the internal parts and the growth, they all serve the same purpose. And it was a pleasure and enlightening been listening to everyone. Thank you, and
Sensei Taylor,
have a great holiday.
Sensei Taylor, what do you thoughts you have?
Well, I thought this was a great conversation. I learned a few things. I'm going to take away a few things, like we don't do an interviewing process, but I think I might start incorporating that. I think that's a great idea. So I think I'm going to incorporate that in our dojo to see where people stand and what they're looking for. Other than that, great conversation. It was good to see everybody again. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and can't wait to see everybody in the new year.
Sensei Rice.
Sorry, you broke up there. Was that me?
Go ahead anyway.
Oh,
Yes, please.
is he frozen again?
Yeah.
You know, I had a great time. This was awesome, and I've got notes. I took lots of notes. I love the things that we shared that were similar, and I'm excited about the things that were different. I came in with this expecting this to be a conversation, and I learned so much. So it became a classroom. I really enjoyed this, and I wish you guys all a very happy New Year, and I can't wait to see you next year.
Sensei Copeland.
Wow. This was really, really good. I mean, it was a pleasure. It's always fun chatting with my friends. Can I call you my friends? With my friends.
Absolutely.
And except for one person, I won't mention any names. But no, it was a really, really good conversation, good chatting. We talk about the same things, you know, sometimes maybe from a different perspective, but that's how we all learn. That's how we grow. I want to wish you guys a great holiday season. And I want you to know that I love you deeply, all of this, for sure. Not just lip service, I do. And if you call, I will come. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, Sensei Copeland. Sensei Suino.
Sensei Copeland, you're the biggest 5'7" man I've ever met.
It's my
It was really-
shoes.
It's the shoes. It was really cool how in the beginning, some of the questions we went through, the answers are very different. And I was kind of surprised by some of them. And then at other times we had very similar answers and we kind of walked through them in the same way. So it wasn't like everybody came on and just sort of spouted the same nonsense. I'm grateful that everybody gave real thought to the questions and answered them in a way that made sense, and provided us information that we can definitely use as we try to grow, both in making our dojos bigger, making our teaching better, and making ourselves better martial artists. Thank you so much for that. You know, guys, JMac is right here in sunny Ann Arbor, Michigan. The door is always open for each and every one of you. It's not very sunny right now, but you know, what can you do? Feel free to visit. The welcome mat is out anytime you make your way towards Ann Arbor.
Yes. Doors always open at my place too for everybody.
Sunny Ann Arbor, Michigan. He makes it sound like Florida.
It's not Florida.
Like
Not
a
even close.
vacation destination.
How about you, Randy? And I just want to make sure we don't forget to thank as many people as we can, whose names we can remember.
Yeah, I have a list here, but I'm just super grateful. This show has turned into something that I look forward to every Thursday. I've learned so much through this conversation and the other conversations. And like Sensei Copeland said, I really, really am extremely grateful to have all of you in my life. I feel really privileged that we can send a message out and say, hey, we've got this harebrained idea to do this podcast. And hey, we want you all to come on and bring a question. And hey, and everybody just does, and they have a great time. And everybody learns so much. I learned a ton. And I know that one day when none of us are here anymore, somebody else is going to watch this and they're going to learn something. And I'm really grateful for that. That one day when we're all like up there or down there, wherever we find ourselves, somebody's going to be reaping the rewards of us talking today. And I'm really happy about that. I'm very happy about that. And so before we kill the feed here, we always like to say thank you to the people behind the scenes, the people who do all the hard work to make this happen. That is Sydney Dauphin, Andrei Sedishev, Dridi Giuliani, Justin Shea, Stavros Trevulius, Dan Holland, Alden Adair, Jesse Vito, just thanks so much to you guys for making calls, setting up the links, setting the website up. And if you're watching this over the holidays, it's a good time to go back through some of the old episodes and catch up on some things while you have some time. There's lots of good ones out there for you to watch. And thanks, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday, and see everybody in 2024. Probably.
Absolutely.
All right. Be safe.